मुदारबा ऑर्डिनेंस 1980 में वजूद में आया। NBFI और मुदारबा एसोसिएशन एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म है जो बिजनेस प्रोफाइलिंग, प्रमोशन और इमेज बिल्डिंग में अहम किरदार अदा करता है। NBFI और मुदारबा एसोसिएशन में इस वक्त 37 कंपनीज रजिस्टर्ड हैं, जिसमें 26 मुदारबा, 8 लीजिंग और 3 इन्वेस्टमेंट फाइनेंस सर्विसेज शामिल हैं। NBFI और मुदारबा एसोसिएशन सेमिनार्स और वर्कशॉप्स के जरिए अपने मेंबरान की पेशावराना सलाहियतों को बढ़ाता है।
इस्लामिक मोड ऑफ फाइनेंसिंग जो है वो 3 तरह के हैं। एक मोड कहलाते हैं पार्टिसिपेटरी, जिसके अंदर लोग पैसा देकर पार्टनरशिप करते हैं। दूसरे मोड कहलाते हैं ट्रेडिंग, जिसके अंदर जिसको पैसे की ज़रूरत होती है और जो पैसा दे रहा होता है, इनके दरमियान ट्रेडिंग के कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होते हैं। और तीसरे मोड कहलाते हैं रेंटल, जिसके अंदर पैसा जिसको चाहिए होता है और जो दे रहा होता है वो इस तरीके का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करते हैं कि जिसके अंदर रेंट या किराया ले रहे होते हैं। मुदारबा इस्लामिक मोड ऑफ फाइनेंसिंग में से पहला मोड, जिसे हम पार्टिसिपेटरी कहते हैं, उसकी एक किस्म है। उसके अंदर 2 तरह के मोड होते हैं। एक मुशारका यानी पार्टनरशिप कहते हैं, दूसरे को मुदारबा कहते हैं। मुदारबा एक ख़ास किस्म का पार्टनरशिप का तरीका है, जिसके अंदर एक का पैसा और दूसरे की मेहनत होती है। यानी हम यूँ कह दें कि एक की इन्वेस्टमेंट होती है और दूसरे के स्किल्स होते हैं। इस वजह से पाकिस्तान के अंदर मुदारबा सेक्टर के अंदर शरिया कंप्लायंस यानी कि इस्लामी तरीके के मुताबिक होने का पूरा एक सिस्टम मौजूद है, जिसके तहत इनका ऑडिट भी होता है, सिक्योरिटीज एंड एक्सचेंज कमीशन की तरफ से इनका इंस्पेक्शन भी होता है। और पाकिस्तान के लॉ के तहत हर मुदारबा के लिए ज़रूरी है कि उसका एटलीस्ट एक एडवाइज़र हो जो कि शरिया मैटर का एक्सपर्ट हो। इस लिहाज से हम ये कह सकते हैं कि मुदारबा जो है इनके ऊपर एक मल्टी लेयर्ड जो है एक कंट्रोलिंग सिस्टम मौजूद है, जो कि इनके कंप्लायंस को चेक रखता है। हमारे यहाँ जो पाकिस्तान के अंदर मुदारबा के नाम से तरीक़ेकार मुतारफ़ है, वो तो एक कानूनी तौर पर मुकम्मल एक स्ट्रक्चर्ड सिस्टम के तहत है, जिसको हम कह सकते हैं रेगुलेटेड सिस्टम के तहत वो चलता है। उसके अंदर सिक्योरिटीज एंड एक्सचेंज कमीशन उसकी निगरानी करता है, बाकायदा उनको अकाउंट्स बनाने पड़ते हैं, हर चीज़ की फाइनेंशियल रिपोर्टिंग होती है, उनके लीगल एडवाइज़र होते हैं, उनके यहाँ इंटरनल ऑडिटर होते हैं, एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटर होते हैं, शरिया एडवाइज़र होते हैं।
Many other things that you can do in Mudaraba. Number one, it's the most Sharia compliant structure that you can have. Number two, you can do manufacturing in this, you can do
Assalamu alaikum and good morning to all of you. To start our today's session, I would like to invite Mr. Faisal to recite few verses from Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم. هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون. هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah khair, Faisal. On behalf of IBA CEIF, I would like to welcome our Professor Dr. Executive Director Dr. Syed Akbar Zaidi, Professor Dr. Ishrat Hussain Saab, Professor Dr. Farooq Sadwari Saab, who is the Commissioner SCCP, and also the chairman of Modaraba Association of Pakistan, NBFI and Modaraba Association of Pakistan, Bashir Chaudhry Sahab. Now I would like to request the guests to come on stage. I will announce their name one by one. Mr. Bashir A. Chaudhry, Chairman, NBFI and Modaraba Association, to join us on stage. Give a round of applause, definitely.
Thank you.
Our special address by guest of honor, Professor Dr. Syed Akbar Zaidi, Executive Director, IBA. I would like to request her to come on stage. Our keynote address will be by Mr. Farooq H. Sabzawari, Commissioner HCCB. He will be joining us online. We have address by the chief guest, Professor Dr. Ishrat Hussain, Advisor to the Prime Minister on Institutional Reforms and Austerity. He will be joining us online. I would like to invite Mr. Rahil to join us on stage. Mr. Rahil Q. Ahmed has been the CEO of Standard Chartered Modaraba since 2011. I would like to invite Mohammad Shoaib Ibrahim, who is associated with First Habib Modaraba since its inception. I would like to invite Mr. Ahmed Ali Siddiqui, who is Director, Center for Excellence in Islamic Finance. Mr. Ahmed Ali Siddiqui. Now, to start our today's session formally, I would like to invite first Mr. Bashir A. Chaudhry, who will be giving his welcoming remarks. Mr. Bashir Chaudhry is a seasoned banker having a rich and diverse experience of international, domestic, investment, and Islamic banking. Mr. Chaudhry brings with him over 50 years experience of financial and corporate management in overseas and local markets, besides playing a significant role in the NBFI and Modaraba sector of Pakistan. Currently, Mr. Chaudhry is Chief Executive Officer of Trust Modaraba. He is the Director of Saudi Park Real Estate Limited and is a member of the Executive Committee of Federation of Pakistan Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Over to you, sir. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of NBFI and Modaraba Association of Pakistan, I welcome you all to the launching ceremony of the country report on the non-banking and Modaraba sector. The report has been prepared in collaboration with IBA Centre. I am grateful to Dr. Ishrat Hussain, Advisor to PM, who, in spite of his very busy schedule, is the chief guest of this ceremony. I am also grateful to Mr. Farooq Sabzawari, Commissioner SCCP, and Ms. Bushra Aslam, Registrar Modaraba, for their participation in today's event and their continued support. The valuable presence of Dr. Akbar Zaidi, Executive Director IBA, and Mr. Ahmed Ali Siddiqui, Director, Center of Excellence in Islamic Finance, is very encouraging, and we sincerely thank them and their colleagues for making this event possible. Ladies and gentlemen, non-banking and Modaraba sectors. Non-banking and Modaraba sectors. Non-banking and financial sectors are an integral component of our financial system. They play an important role for serving financial needs of different segments and complementing the banking system and financial value chain in Pakistan. They help in financial inclusion, asset creation, and economic development of medium to small entities, by offering specialized products like leasing, agro-based activities, and facilities designed to their needs. NBFIs also help promote culture for documentation and generally reach out to the economically uncatered for and unbanked segments of the country. Modarbas, ladies and gentlemen, are a unique concept, providing Sharia-compliant mechanics for all halal business activities, including trading, financial services, manufacturing, and infrastructure-related segments. NBFI Modaraba Association is an authorized representative body of Modarabas, leasing companies, and investment financial services. They are all licensed and regulated by SECB. Currently, the membership of the association is 39. At the moment, we have a membership. There are 27 Modarabas, 8 leasing companies, 4 investment financial services, making the number of 39. Ladies and gentlemen, a brief account of the size of the sector. Modarabas have the assets of about 51.4 billion. Leasing companies have the assets of about 10.8 million. Investment financial services have the assets of about 27.8 million, making the total of 90 billions, I would say. Modarabas have the equity of 18.6 billion. Leasing companies have the equity of 5.4 billion, and investment financial services have the equity of 12.2 billion. The total equity size of our members is 36 billion. Total profits of the sector is very interesting combination. Financial Modarabas have shown a profit of 969 million. Trading Modarabas have shown a profit of 35 million. Unfortunately, manufacturing Modaraba, and one of them has shown a very significant loss. I won't name them, of quite a substantial amount. Therefore, the total Modaraba sector, because of them, is gone down in profit figures by 2 billion. Leasing companies have shown a profit of 128, and investment financial services, which includes our prestigious numbers like leasing, like Oryx Leasing, 779 million. The total is more than the total overall, because of one manufacturing Modaraba, is in negative. The payouts are the most important factor of this sector. You are aware that Modarabas have to distribute 90% of their earned profits in order to claim the tax exemption. So I'm very happy to say that the Modarabas have distributed from 1.1% to 75% to their certificate holders. And the amount comes to 884 million. Leasing companies, although small in number, they have also declared 2.5 million to 2.5% to 6.5%, totaling about 71 billion. Investment financial services, 7% to 37.5%, totaling 716 million. So the total profit of the sector comes to 1,671 million, which has been paid out, not the profit, but the payments to the certificate holders. Ladies and gentlemen, we are a significant part of the capital market. The market capitalization of our members, Modarabas have 11 billion, 11.5 billion. About 6 billion is of the leasing companies, investment finance services 4 billion, about 17 billion. And we constitute more than 70%? More than 70% of the Pakistan Stock Exchange at this moment, and number-wise, because our investors are small and diversified. Ladies and gentlemen, the core objectives of the association include enhancement of professional competence of the members through workshops, seminars, and interactive sessions, and also to provide awareness to the stakeholders and general public. In order to promote an overall awareness of the sector, the association has been taking various measures like publishing its yearbook, which contains activities of the sector and performance of the individual members during the year, as well as the collective results of the whole sector. The association has signed arrangements for this purpose with Center of Excellence in Islamic Finance of IBA and Institute of Management and Accounting of Pakistan, ICMAP, and continues its efforts to enhance its interaction with other academia like Institute of Business Management, Institute of Chartered Accountants in Pakistan, and Pakistan Institute of Capital Markets and other institutions. The association has also developed interaction with the Federation of the Chambers of Commerce, Karachi Chamber of Commerce, KCCI, and KATI, which is Korangi Association of Trade and Industry, which is the largest collection of the chambers in Karachi and around Karachi, to provide awareness sessions to their members. SCCP has been requested and has been supporting the association for arranging and coordinating awareness sessions throughout the country. Ladies and gentlemen, the need for a detailed report on NBFI and Modaraba sector was felt for quite some time. And this encouraged the association to prepare the report which is being presented to you today. It was initiated by Mr. Rahil Kamar Ahmed, CEO RX Modaraba, who was then the chairman of the association. Thank you, Rahil, for taking the initiative. Consequently, the task was assigned to IBA CEIF to compile the report in collaboration with the association. The project was unfortunately delayed for some time due to the spread of the COVID pandemic in the country, but we are privileged to present the report to you today. Efforts have been made, ladies and gentlemen, to include in the report various aspects of the non-banking and Modaraba sector regarding its evolution, growth, structure, performance, Sharia compliance, and regulatory framework. It is hoped that the book will provide a comprehensive coverage of the sector to the readers. We are indeed grateful to Professor Dr. Ishat Hussain, who is the chairman IBA CEIF, Mr. Faraq Sabzawari, Commissioner SCCP, Ms. Bushra Aslam, Executive Director and Registrar Modaraba, SCCP, Dr. Akbar Zaidi, Executive Director IBA, Mr. Ahmed Ali Siddiqui of IBA, and their colleagues for their continuous guidance and encouragement in compilation of the book. We are so thankful to our senior colleagues in the sector who contributed their valuable thoughts in their interviews, which form a very useful component of the report. We place on record with gratitude our acknowledgement and appreciation of the concerted efforts made by Dr. Iram Sabah, Assistant Professor IBA CEIF, as the coordinator of this project, and Mr. Mohammad Sabiullah, Secretary General of the Association, for compilation and completion of this report. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all again for your kind participation in this event. I look forward to receiving your valued comments on our publication. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. We have Mufti Irshad Ahmad Ijaz over here, who is the Chairman Sharia Advisory Committee of State Bank of Pakistan. I would like to request Mufti Sahab to please join us on stage. Now I would like to invite our guest of honor. As you are aware that this report is written by IBA CEIF and NBFI and Modaraba Association of Pakistan. So we have our guest of honor today, Professor Dr. Syed Akbarzaidi, Executive Director, IBA. Professor Dr. Syed Akbarzaidi is a renowned political economist with an experience of over 36 years of teaching and research in Pakistan and abroad. His area of interest in research include political economy, development, social science, and history. Dr. Zaidi has written over 75 academic articles in international journals and as chapters in books. Among his books are Military, Civil Society, and Democratization in Pakistan 2011, The New Development Paradigm, Papers on Institutions, NGOs, Gender, and Local Government 1999. Currently, Dr. Zaidi is serving as Executive Director, IBA Karachi. Please give warm welcome to Dr. Syed Akbarzaidi.
Thank you very much, Hiram. Assalamu alaikum, Khawateen Hazarat, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the IBA. It's a great pleasure to welcome all of you for this launch today. IBA and CEIF, established in October 2015, focus on collaboration with industry for research, consultancy, and training. As of today, IBA CEIF has produced 2 international industry research papers, one of which is the Islamic Finance Country Report 2016 in collaboration with IRTI in Jeddah and Thomson Reuters, and the second one, Diversification of Islamic Financial Instruments 2017, published by the Standing Committee for Economic and Commercial Cooperation of the OIC in Turkey. Today marks the launch of the third industry report, NBFI and Modaraba Sector Country Report 2020. This is the first ever report written on this industry by IBA CEIF in collaboration with NBFI and the Modaraba Association of Pakistan. On the 21st of September 2019, IBA CEIF signed a memorandum of interest and letter of engagement for this report. The report has 12 chapters, 8 interviews, and 2 articles. The report provides a snapshot of the international NBFI non-banking financial institutions and NBFI and Modaraba sector in Pakistan. It also features the importance of the NBFI and Modaraba sector for economic development, for small and medium enterprises, financing, and financial inclusion in the case of Pakistan. Moreover, it delves into the challenges faced by NBFI and the Modaraba sector through the executive survey and exclusive interviews of Sharia scholars, Registrar Modaraba, Chairman and Secretary General of NBFI and Modaraba Association of Pakistan, and many practitioners. It also discusses the initiatives taken by the Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan, SECP, and NBFI and Modaraba Association of Pakistan for the development of the sector. I congratulate the association and IBS CEIF team, especially Dr. Iram Sabah, for providing this insightful document to the readers in Pakistan and abroad. I'm sure when you read it, we welcome comments and we'll have further discussion on this report. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It is very important to mention that you can't work for the growth of the financial sector unless you have the support from the regulatory authority. And I'm so happy to share that we got very good support from Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan when we were drafting this report. Now I would like to invite Commissioner, Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan, Specialized Companies Division, Policy, Regulation and Development Department, and Supervision and Enforcement Department, Mr. Farooq H. Sabzawari. Mr. Farooq H. Sabzawari is an MBA in Finance with more than 25 years of professional experience in the capital markets in Pakistan and abroad. Before joining the SECP as a commissioner in December 2018, he was the CEO of BMA Capital Management, one of Pakistan's largest firms dealing in financial services. I would like to request Mr. Farooq H. Sabzawari to please give his address. Over to you, sir.
Bahut shukriya. Thank you so much. I hope everybody can hear me. Hiram, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I have an axe to grind with you, Hiram. Before I begin, पहले आपने मुझे प्रोफेसर बना दिया. मैं सिर्फ क्लैरिफाई कर दूं, मैं प्रोफेसर नहीं हूं. दूसरा आपने मुझे कहा हुसैन, तो मैंने कहा क्लैरिफाई कर दूं. I am seeing less and less of you, Hiram. So the SECP needs to see more and more of you, because obviously the big ticket takeaway from this session is going to be that we need to increase awareness of Islamic finance also within the SECP and what we need to do that. But thank you, everybody. Welcome to this great initiative. I see a lot of luminaries sitting on the dais. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. I have not been well over the weekend, and I'm not a graduate as yet of COVID, so I thought I'd just avoid the mess that I can cause all of you because I've been unwell. But I've read the report cover to cover, so that's the good news. And I can say that, you know, just traveling in and out every weekend, Karachi, Islamabad, helps in my reading. So I have to admit, thank you, the association, Bashir Saab, for inviting me. I see a lot of luminaries on the dais, Mufti Saab, Ahmed Siddiqui Saab, Akbar Zaidi Saab, Rahil Kamar. Because I've read the book, I realized that this was your brainchild. So many congrats, Rahil. Shoaib Ibrahim, I can see you there as well. So thank you very much. I'll be very, very quick. Firstly, I also want to congratulate, obviously, Ishrat Hussain Saab, who's been a beacon of light for the commission. I know he's speaking after me, but he's been extremely, extremely supportive to the commission and all their endeavors. I've read the forward. I've adhered to a number of advices he's given us on how to improve the sector's performance. But I did want to point out a number of things that we've already done. I thought this was a good forum to get started on that. One, you may have noticed a table on assets and equities. So the biggest grouse will be, has the sector done enough in the last 10 years or 15 years in terms of its growth profile? And do we need to do a lot more? So the answer is yes, the latter. A lot more is needed. And it was in that perspective that we did an extensive consultation with all stakeholders and potential stakeholders who were interested in the Modaraba and leasing sector. The result of that consultation are the changes that are being made in the Modaraba ordinance. A couple that I did want to highlight, because Ishrat Saab ne ek do baatein uthai thi in terms of what we can do better. So one, we've introduced the concept of an unlisted Modaraba. Now what that concept does is, if you have friends and family who can cough up capital to start with, you can operate an unlisted Modaraba, and in the third year, you can list it. Because the minimum capital requirement for a listed Modaraba is 200 million. So in the first 3 years, that concept unlisted Modaraba, I can tell you by just hearsay, a lot of business groups are already calling us and saying, when are your amendments going in the door? So the good news there as well is that the National Assembly Committee session, which was supposed to be held last week, is going to be held this week. Once it gets out of the NA, it goes to the Senate committee will meet on it. So I think another 3 months or so, what you do get is that concept of unlisted Mudaraba. That's one, which is exciting to a lot of people who are looking at the sector. Secondly, something that Dr. Saab also picked up, Dr. Ikshit Saab also picked up is whether the rights of the shareholders, in this case, certificate holders, have been adequately addressed. So we actually made them in sync with any listed company where you have rights as shareholders. We've given those same rights to stakeholders or certificate holders in a Mudaraba company. So what you now see is more interest in terms of, they're more empowered on voting rights, they're more empowered on accounts, on auditors. So a lot more involved in business decisions as against yesterday. So I think these two changes are paramount to see us change in sector. Thirdly, I think this is again, because this current commission is focusing a lot more on development. So because I look at specialized companies, looking at all facets, whether it's the finance, which I also looked at, or mutual funds, which I'm also looking at, we are doing a deep dive into all of these sectors. And we've done the same with the Modaraba sector. We're doing the same with leasing. I know the biggest grouse that we always have is we don't have enough liquidity for these sectors. My own contention is a lot of cleanup is needed internally. A lot of betterment is needed in terms of governance and management quality internally. So what we are doing is going individual to individual, leasing company, Mudaraba company, wherever we're seeing equity is being eroded by say 30, 40 odd %, we're actually addressing or trying to address those concerns along with management and encouraging them to consolidate if that is the need. I will not take more than this time, but what I will also point out is the first thing that I said. I think there is a lot more to be done on awareness raising, and hence my point to Dr. Iram. I used to see a lot more of you last year. I assume it's COVID, which is why I haven't seen as much as you at the SCCP. But clearly awareness raising, and lastly, I did point out to the leasing sector when we spoke a few weeks ago. Please focus on this one institution that we're also focusing on as SCCP, which is the Institute of Financial Markets of Pakistan. A lot of the training, development, awareness raising can be done through IFMP. We've put in a new CEO, the SCCP. Again, I think this was a stillborn child a few years ago. Again, the SCCP is refocusing. I think certification is essential for anybody in the business of selling financial services. And so please try and use that platform, and of course the IBA in conjunction with IFMP, to enhance the awareness raising that this sector needs. But I'll end there. Thank you very much again for inviting me to speak on this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, I accept. I use Professor Doctor in front of your name. When you are in academia, so most of the time you have slip of tongue, especially when it comes to the professor and doctor and all that. So my apologies for that. And today's chief guest is being a fan of Dr. Saab, and I have learned a lot from him. So yeah, this was another mistake that I used Hussain with your name. So my apologies for that as well. Now I'm going to request our chief guest of today's ceremony. One thing is very important to share, that Dr. Saab always wanted to have meaningful, collaborations. It's not that just to sign an MOU and then you forget. So he always encourages us, you need to have a meaningful memorandum of understanding or collaborations. This is why this report is here. So we are honored to have Professor Dr. Ishrat Hussain, who is a well-known figure for his intellect, wisdom, hard work, and change management, not only in Pakistan and worldwide. Dr. Ishrat Hussain is currently working as advisor to the Prime Minister on institutional reforms and austerity with the status of Federal Minister. He is also the chairman of Center for Excellence in Islamic Finance, IBA Centre. I would like to request Professor Dr. Ishrat Hussain to please start his keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, let me thank the NBFI and Modaraba Association for providing me this opportunity to share my thoughts about this very important report. And I want to congratulate the authors and the people who have worked very hard to produce this very fine report. I think the quality is something which I think you should all be very proud of. And I hope that this will be a series of the reports of this nature for the future also. I don't want to repeat what I have said in my foreword, and I think Farooq has pointed out some of those points, so that is a repetition. I would like to take a much broader picture to place the NBFIs and Modarabas and the Sharia compliance instruments. You may all know that Pakistan's savings and investment ratios are about 15 to 14% of GDP, and they've hovered around this for a very long time. The only time they reached 23% was in 2006 or 2007. Since then, they have been very low. And those who know the relationship between the investment ratios and the GDP growth can realize that this limits our growth rates. So that's why the growth rates in Pakistan have been almost dismal, in my opinion. Now you compare yourself to Bangladesh, which was part of this country. Bangladesh, like us, had the same savings ratio of between 15–16%, but they have now reached close to 30% of GDP. And what has it done? This has reduced Bangladesh's dependence on foreign savings. They haven't gone to the IMF for last 12–15 years, I think. And the foreign aid, which Henry Kissinger described this as a basket case, is almost dried up because they don't need it. And the country has been able to attain an investment ratios of 30% and growing at an average rate of 6 to 7% for the last 1 decade. Poverty rates have come down from almost 45% to 22% in just a decade or so. Why I want to present this example is to illustrate the power of domestic savings and reduce dependence on foreign savings. Pakistan's financial depth, financial inclusion, private sector credit to GDP ratios lag behind our neighbors. So the financial savings are something which need to be tapped and mobilized. There is a huge scope for expansion of the financial savings mobilization in Pakistan so that we are able to speed up the rate of investment. If you look at our currency in circulation ratios, they have risen to what I call as an unacceptable level, while our advance to deposit ratios of the banks are actually declining. From the time I was a governor, it was about 80%, and now it is down to 40–45%. And the SME lending, which had reached about 17%, is down to almost 7%. These are some very worrisome ratios and indicators. In my view, Islamic financing has become quite popular in this country. 70% of those polled would like to switch to Islamic financing. A lot of small savers are not very much comfortable with the banking services. So this is a niche market, in my view. The intersection of greater interest in Islamic financing and small savers, which Modarabas and NBFIs can actually exploit to tap this pool of savings. We are fortunate that we have at present very progressive-minded and forward-looking regulators, SECP and SBP. This is the time for your association to move away from the traditional ways of doing business and bring about innovations as the regulators would assist and facilitate you in this task. The risk, in my view, is that sooner or later, the fintechs would create such disruption that both banking and non-banking institutions would lose their primacy. So before they do that, you have to jump in and reposition yourself. Use of technology to mobilize savings and reduce the cost of lending is something you should aim at. Brick and mortar presence that entails a lot of upward expense can be avoided. So my advice is that you should not be complacent with what you've been doing in the past, but try to position yourself for the future. I'm glad that the waterfront covering the NBFIs has expanded vastly. And we have now institutions such as Sharia compliant mutual funds, pension funds, investment finance companies, REITs, provident funds, endowment funds, which have been set up in the last 2 decades. These institutions, all of them can play a critical role in the development of capital debt markets that in Pakistan are yet to take off. SECP has recently encouraged setting up of housing finance companies because we are now looking at a 500 billion rupees investment, which is going to be channeled in construction and housing sectors. These investments will attract and, as I have been saying, are very much suited, compatible with the Islamic mode of financing. And the diminishing musharaka, which is one of the very attractive products, is something which builds up the equity of the borrower while reducing its indebtedness. And that is something which the non-bank financing institutions, particularly the housing companies, have to look at it. Now, you also were complaining about the deployment of liquidity. Well, the government of Pakistan has now adopted a calendar, a regular calendar for issuance of sukuks, both domestically as well as internationally. And this will be now a regular feature of our borrowing strategy. The maturity mismatch inherent in the banking business can be overcome by these long-term investment instruments. NBFIs, insurance companies, REITs, housing finance companies, infrastructure investment funds are always looking for opportunities to deploy their resources profitably. The Sharia compliant housing and infrastructure investments are quite suitable for this purpose. I was glad that the Pakistan Power Sukuk 2, which we issued last year, attracted a lot of interest by NBFIs. And the healthy competition resulted in a significant saving for us, the issuer, the GOP, compared to the traditional ways of issuance. And I'm happy that the SECP is encouraging other issuers to adopt the same method of book building through the debt market. I would encourage all of you, the Modaraba's NBFIs, to continue your participation in these issues. And I would also urge the corporates to expand their borrowing instruments by including these kind of sukuks. So these are some thoughts, some ideas, which I hope that your association and the players who are responsible for the Sharia compliant Islamic funding and Islamic financing would take to work on for the future. Thank you once again for inviting me to share my views with this very august audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, before the launch of today's report, I would like to mention few names. Without their support, it was not possible for us to write this report. Of course, the forward by Professor Dr. Ishrat Hussain. Then we have Ms. Bushra Aslam, Executive Director and Registrar Modaraba, because she was the first one when we sent her the request for interview. She immediately shared that yes, she is happy to accept the request, and she just submitted her interview immediately. Sir Bashir A. Chaudhry Sahab, Chairman NBFI and Modaraba Association of Pakistan. Mr. Muhammad Shoaib Ibrahim, Chief Executive Officer, First Habib Modaraba. Mufti Ishad Ahmad Ijaz Sahab, Chairman Sharia Advisory Committee of State Bank of Pakistan, and also Sharia Advisory Board, Bank Islamic Pakistan Limited. Mr. Rahil Q. Ahmad, Chief Executive Officer, Oryx Modaraba. We had several meetings with Rahil Saab and Shoaib Saab in order to move forward with the report. Mr. Shaheen Amin, Chief Executive Officer, Oryx Leasing Pakistan Limited. Mr. Mohammad Samiullah, Secretary General, NBFI and Modaraba Association of Pakistan. He supported us throughout this journey. Mr. Murtaza Ahmad Ali, Chief Executive Officer, Allied Rental Modaraba. Last but not least, Ms. Sumaira, who worked as a research fellow for this particular project. And Alhamdulillah, the report is here, and soon we are going to launch this report. I would like to request Bashir A. Chaudhry Sahab to come over here in the middle and present the report to the Executive Director, Institute of Business Administration, Karachi, Professor Dr. Syed Akbar Zaidi. You can give a round of applause. I would like to request the team to join for a group photo, please. Shoaib Saab, Rahil Saab, Ahmad Ali Siddiqui Saab, Mufti Saab, if you can join for a group photo. We are also very thankful to our online participants. We have more than 60 participants. Special thank to Brother Umar Mustafa Ansari, Secretary General IOC, Sir Bilal Rasool Saab, Adeem Pirani Saab from State Bank. We have Aslam Naved Saab, Adeem Pirani Saab from Pak Qatar. Thank you so much for joining us. I wish we could have you over here, Sir Farooq Sadawari Saab, and of course, Dr. Ishrat Hussain. We are missing your presence here. Sumaira, please join.
आपके बगैर होना नहीं था ये। Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. आप सबका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया लाने का, आप सबका बेइंतहा शुक्रिया तशरीफ लाने का और पार्टिसिपेट बहुत शुक्रिया।
Because of the presentation of the report was done by Bashir Chaudhry Saab in his welcoming address, so we are not going to have a separate presentation for the report, but I really welcome your presence for the launch of this report. If you have any questions, please feel free to write us. Thank you so much to Sir Farooq Sadawari Saab. Thank you so much to our chief guest for today's session, Professor Dr. Ishrat Hussain, and all the participants who are present online and physically over here. With this, we would like to adjourn our today's session. Jazakallah khair, Kasira.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.